Man helps a dying polar bear. You won't believe what happens next. One afternoon in April, in a remote village in the Kamchatka region, word spread of unusual sightings on the coast. The villagers were stunned by what they saw, a wild polar bear, the likes of which none of them had ever seen before. But how had it gotten there? One day, while the polar bear was searching for food, a sheet of ice likely broke away from the mainland, stranding the animal. Surrounded by ice and water, it probably tried to return to land but couldn't. This was the start of a life-changing journey for the young predator. After several days, or perhaps weeks, it finally reached a strange and unfamiliar land 700 kilometers from home. When it arrived at the village and stood on the shore, its only thought was finding food. The polar bear attempted to dig for food, but every effort ended in failure. The land was not only unfamiliar but also unusually warm, with little suitable food to be found. It wandered aimlessly, initially steering clear of the village. Its sharp ears caught the distant sounds of people going about their daily routines. While most bears typically avoid human settlements, this bear was both hungry and exhausted. Driven by desperation, it overcame its instincts and ventured closer to the village in search of sustenance. A nearby building drew its attention, and the polar bear slowly walked toward it. Unaware that it was the village police station, the exhausted predator lay down, its face reflecting sadness and desperation as if pleading for help. It didn't take long for the local police to notice their unexpected visitor. One officer raised the alarm, and two others were dispatched to take a closer look at the animal. The polar bear was gigantic in size. It had white fur and clearly visible sharp claws. Naturally, they were afraid to get any closer. The policemen approached cautiously to get a better view of the animal, but kept their distance so as not to frighten it. When the anxious officers finally realized what the animal was, they were shocked. There in the snow lay a large and intimidating young male polar bear that had mysteriously landed in their small village. They couldn't believe their eyes, but they also realized something was wrong with their unexpected visitor. The animal appeared to have a serious injury to its front paw. The polar bear lay there with its injured paw pressed against its body. The police officers felt sorry for the animal and decided to help it. They contacted the local wildlife protection authorities. The officers were shocked to hear about this unusual case and set off as quickly as possible. They took care of the polar bear's paw and gave it time to rest. The bear, called Umka by the locals, became a celebrity in the village. Although the bear ate very little, the villagers brought him plenty of fish and food every day. While the bear seemed happy for the people's help, it was clear that it wanted to return home. His presence became a sensation, even attracting visitors from neighboring villages. The police kept a close eye on the bear and were careful not to let anyone get too close while they considered a solution. Experts were consulted and concluded that Umka had no chance of survival in Kamchatka and urgently needed to return home. But how could this be done? The animal was so disoriented that it could never find its way back on its own. Even if the polar bear knew the way, the journey would be illogical and impossible for it to complete. The situation seemed hopeless. Vladimir Solodov, head of the State Hunting Supervision Department and the Regional Forestry and Wildlife Protection Agency, explained that this was not an isolated case. Polar bears sometimes wander far from their homes on ice floes when the ice sheets unexpectedly break away from the mainland. Unfortunately, they are often unable to return home or find food in their new environment. For animals like Umka, this often leads to their demise. However, the villagers and authorities were determined not to let this happen. News of the unusual visitor spread quickly, and many people followed the story with interest. Within a few days, measures were taken to return the predator to its Arctic home. The regional governor, Vladimir Ilyukin, asked Emergency Minister Yevgeny Zinichev to provide a helicopter to transport Umka back to his Arctic habitat. A special transport cage was also built for the animal. 8 days after Umka's arrival, the Russian Emergency Ministry organized a rescue operation to take him back to the Arctic. Never before had a creature of such size been transported by helicopter. The task presented significant challenges, but the team was determined to carry out the rescue. When they arrived in Kamchatka, experts temporarily sedated the bear to ensure it would survive the flight. Alexander Shilov, a wildlife advisor in Kamchatka, reported that the bear was healthy and well-fed. The anesthetized animal was carefully placed in the specially made cage and loaded into the helicopter. Villagers cheered as the authorities took off with Umka. The journey was long, and the crew grew increasingly nervous when something unexpected occurred. The polar bear woke up, making noises in its cage. Everyone immediately became alert, careful not to make any sudden movements that might frighten the animal. Their anxiety was palpable. They feared the bear might try to break out of the cage or shake the helicopter during the 700-kilometer flight, potentially jeopardizing the mission and endangering everyone on board. Fortunately, the bear appeared to understand that the people were trying to help and stayed calm in its cage, quietly observing them with its eyes. Although conscious during the flight, it neither shook the cage nor showed any aggression. A spokesperson for the Kamchatka regional government later told the press that while the flight was noisy and Umka was understandably frightened, he remained composed. "He was a very brave bear," the spokesperson remarked. The flight proceeded without issue until they arrived at the location where Umka was to be released. Once they landed, the cage was opened and Umka was gently encouraged to step out. The bear hesitated briefly before finally running off into the wild. The mission was a resounding success, and Umka was finally home. What an incredible story! If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so please leave a comment below. See you in the next video.